My daughter called it a short stay for safety. She said it like a blessing, soft and tidy, the kind of phrase that tucks a blanket around your shoulders while moving your chair an inch to the left. The first evening she drove me from the residence to pick up my pillbox, I noticed the key hook by the kitchen door hanging empty. No familiar jangle. No old brass flash. When I asked where my keys had walked off to, she smiled the way people smile at toddlers who drop marbles. Warm, practiced, a touch proud. She had them for now. Contractors were coming. Tarps, paint, cords. I don't want you to trip, Mom. The mailbox had learned new manners in my absence. It used to gossip coupons and catalogs I never asked for. Now it offered nothing at all. My daughter handed me a neat stack she had already handled. Utilities moved to online only. The bank streamlined. Insurance updated. She said the words like a magician naming silk scarves. I heard something harder inside the softness. Control wears a pleasant face when it wants to be invited in. 3 days into the short stay, the resident's desk called me to the phone. A bank representative wanted to confirm my recent authorization. According to their records, I had granted my daughter full agency to act for me. I told him I had signed no such thing. My hand knows the rhythm of my name. It had not danced that rhythm for anyone lately. He apologized for the confusion. That word landed like a net. It did not comfort. It tried to catch. I phoned my neighbor, Ruth. She has known my front garden longer than some of my relatives. Ruth said a woman in a navy blazer had measured my windows from the sidewalk with a little laser. She also saw my daughter standing by the hydrangeas, nodding like a committee chair. When I stopped by the next morning, a glossy trifold waited in the doorjamb. Square footage in bold. Smiling strangers in staged rooms. That is not how anyone evaluates handrails. I asked for my keys again. She promised soon. I asked why my mail now arrived pre-chewed. She called it simplifying. I asked whether she changed the locks. She patted my hand. She changed the subject. On the drive back, the residence van turned onto my street. That's when I saw it. The red plank in the grass. The white post like a flagpole. For sale. The letters looked as tall as fence pickets. For a second, the whole day leaned. My daughter broke the silence first. It's what's best, she said gently. Less stress. Fewer stares. You'll thank me later. I looked at the sign, at the house, at the hook that used to hold my keys. I felt something quiet inside me sit up and take a chair. Safety is a good word. It does not require a sign in your lawn. That night I could not sleep. The residence room was clean and kind. The staff wore soft shoes and softer voices. Still, my mind paced. I put on the light and checked my bag. I took out an old checkbook, a worn pen, and a little notebook with a lemon on the cover. I wrote the day's date. I wrote 4 lines: keys, mail, bank call, sign. Paper steadied the room. Names keep you from getting lost. In the morning, Ruth texted a photo. A photographer on my porch. A small ladder. White pillows the size of surrender passing through the doorway. I stared at the phone until the numbers blurred. Then I made tea from lukewarm water and told myself a sentence I could stand on: if someone tries to speak for me on paper, I will make paper speak for me. I asked the residence director for an outside capacity evaluation. Not because I doubted my head. Because I wanted a letter that would not blush in front of a soft lie. She nodded and called a clinician she trusted. He uses clear sentences, she said. He writes only what he has seen. By noon, I had a plan as small and strong as a bolt. Save everything. Name everything. Ask the bank to freeze changes. Ask the county how to flag a title. Ask an attorney to explain the cleanest road back. The work was dull, and dull work is the kind that lasts. At dusk, Ruth sent one more photo. A realtor posing in front of my hydrangeas, smiling at her phone. The caption read "Coming soon" with 2 sparkling emojis. I felt my heart beat slow. Not from peace. From aim. The clinician arrived at the residence with the light kind of step that does not scatter a room. He asked clear questions. He did not pretend to know me in 10 minutes. He listened to the way I answered. He watched me manage my calendar and bill dates on my phone. That afternoon he wrote a letter that said exactly what needed saying. I was fully capable of managing my affairs. Any help, to be called help, must arrive by my choice. I printed 2 copies at the nurse's station. The hum of the machine sounded like a small promise. The bank's fraud investigator called me Mrs. instead of dear. He placed a temporary freeze on changes. He asked for samples of my real signature. I scanned the back of my driver's license and an old mortgage copy. He compared pressure, slant, and rhythm. "We'll escalate," he said. His voice did not float. It set. I started a folder in my bag and wrote a name on the tab, House. Sometimes the simplest label is a leash. Inside it went the capacity letter, the bank email, and Ruth's photographs. Ruth kept walking her dog with purpose. She sent me pictures at different times of day. A car with a brokerage magnet. A stager carrying a bundle of white linen. The same blazer measuring the living room windows from the porch with that little red laser dot. "If you need a statement," she added, "I know what a Tuesday looks like." My daughter stopped by with updates. Utilities consolidated. Property tax auto-drafted. My bedroom prepped. I asked what prepped meant. She said staged, then corrected herself to safer. I let the silence answer for me. Silence can be a very fluent language. When she went to the restroom, a sheet slid loose from her tote. It was a physician letter on familiar letterhead. The signature bothered me at once. The loop on the last name bent the wrong way. My husband was a carpenter. He taught me to love small angles. Small angles tell on big mistakes. I did not touch the paper. I watched where she put it back. I wrote 2 words in my lemon notebook, forged note. I called an attorney whose card I had kept under the sugar bowl since we refinanced. She came the next morning with a folio and the calm of a person who prefers beams to speeches. "We'll set 3 beams," she said. Title, bank, consent. We filed an affidavit with the county. It placed a bright banner over my parcel, owner's signature contested, no transfer without in-person verification. We added a verbal passphrase at the bank, a line my husband used to whisper before big choices. We drafted a limited power of attorney template for someday. Narrow as a ruler. Dormant unless 2 independent letters say otherwise. No real property transfers. No beneficiary edits. No account mergers. Clear witnesses. Clear dates. Meanwhile, the sign in my lawn bred momentum. The listing went live with words like downsizing and easy living. A walkthrough appeared on a shared calendar I had not agreed to. Thursday at 10. The attorney wrote to the brokerage's compliance officer. She copied the title company and the bank investigator. Her email was not angry. It was precise. Precision can do what anger cannot. My daughter texted, "Can we talk before this gets ugly?" I said yes. Tea at my kitchen table on Wednesday. She replied with a thumbs up. Then Ruth screenshot a post from the neighborhood group. My daughter had written that I was choosing to transition gracefully and thanked the community for support. The photo was cropped so tight the date on the sign was missing. Crops that cut off dates always mean more work later. Wednesday's tea was lemon and quiet. My daughter tried optics, timelines, and good intentions. I did not bite any of those hooks. I said I would not be moved like furniture. I said help is a door that opens toward the person it serves. I said any sale would occur only over my warm signature. She called me stubborn. I thanked her for noticing. When she left, Ruth and I set out 2 cups and 2 plans. If the buyers arrived Thursday, we would meet them on the porch. We would be kind. We would be clear. We would hand them an envelope labeled Notice of Dispute. Inside, the county affidavit, the bank freeze, and the capacity letter. If they insisted on stepping inside, we would insist on stepping into speakerphone with the compliance officer. That night, I slept like someone who had stacked wood precisely. In the morning, a car door thumped. Shoes on gravel. The agent's voice on the path. 10 minutes, tops. I set the kettle. I set the envelope beside the cups. I opened my front door. The agent smiled like a flight attendant. The buyer scanned the porch as if choosing a seat. I greeted them with tea and handed the envelope. I need you to have this first, I said. It will save you time. The agent glanced at the label. Notice of Dispute. Her smile loosened at the edges. She asked if the daughter could join us. I said the owner was already present. I was the only signature that mattered. We did not take a tour. We took a minute. The attorney, on speaker, summarized the county affidavit, the bank freeze, and the title company's acknowledgement. Any attempt to proceed, she said, would be knowingly adverse to a flagged record. The agent nodded once. She turned to the buyer. We should go, she said. The buyer apologized. To me. As if I had inconvenienced them by owning my own home. They left with polite relief. It was a small victory. Small victories keep you moving. My daughter stepped out from the sidewalk shadows. She had been watching. You embarrassed me, she whispered. In our own neighborhood. I told her neighborhoods recover from embarrassment. Titles do not recover from fraud. She said the word guardianship. She tried to fold it into guidance. I shook my head. Words don't get cleaner when you whisper them. An hour later, the brokerage's compliance officer called. The listing was removed. An internal memo went out about third-party instructions on elder property. I thanked her for writing a rule instead of sending a fruit basket. Ruth cheered from the sink without turning around. She rinsed the cups like we had just finished a small party we actually invited. At 3, the mail brought a certified letter. The envelope wore a serious seal. Inside, notice of clouded title, prior instrument presented for recording. Attached was a copy of a deed I had never seen. It had been lodged 2 weeks before the sign ever touched my lawn, then bounced for signature clarification. It had not died. It had gone to ground. There was a number for the recorder and a note about cure. The room went a degree colder. I phoned the attorney. She didn't swear. She didn't groan. She said, good. Paper like this prefers light. We prepared a petition to invalidate the instrument. Clean exhibits. Short verbs. My capacity letter. The bank's freeze. The recorder's return slip. Ruth's photos. The forged physician note with the bent loop. We added a simple witness list. Ruth. The clinician. The bank investigator. The recorder's clerk. That evening, my daughter sent a neighborhood post, Mom is choosing a graceful transition. She attached a new photo from a different angle. The date was still missing. I did not argue online. I do not argue where people can scroll past their own guilt. Instead, I wrote a line on my fridge notepad, speak once, in the right room. Let it count. The right room would be court. The right voice would be mine. The right day would be soon. I laid the documents on the table in the order the judge would read them. Title. Bank. Consent. Sequence. Names that belonged where they were written. That night I dreamed of my husband counting studs inside a wall. Measure twice, he always said. Drive once. Before dawn, I stood at the window with my tea. The hydrangeas breathed. The string lights slept. Somewhere a car started, coughed, and settled. I touched the key hook on instinct. It was still empty, but the wall behind it felt steadier. Court is not designed for drama when the paper is clear. Our petition was tidy. The judge skimmed it the way a carpenter runs a hand along a beam. He asked me two plain questions. Did you sign this deed? Did you intend to transfer this house? I answered with both feet in the room. No, and no. The clinician testified to my capacity. The bank investigator explained the freeze and the signature analysis. The recorder's clerk confirmed the prior instrument had been returned for defect. My daughter started a sentence with "I thought," and the judge lifted a palm. Not to shame her. To protect the hour. The ruling came like a clean breath. The instrument was void ab initio. Lawyer Latin for it never lived. A temporary restraining fence went around any transfer activity until the recorder finished cleanup. The judge suggested mediation for family contact and roles. He used a tone I respected. He did not treat contracts as cold. He treated them as blankets that keep warm things from being burned. In the hallway, my daughter cried quietly. Not the loud upset that summons a crowd. The tired kind that arrives when a plan admits its own weight. I wanted you safe, she said. I wanted things simple. I told her safety never needed a sign in my grass. Simplicity never needed my signature borrowed without my hand. Help, I said, opens toward the person it claims to serve. She nodded. Once. Not performative. Real. We set a mediation date. I asked my attorney to draft 2 documents for that day, a care agreement with duties, hours, a modest stipend, and a clause about emergencies welcoming 2 voices, and a repayment plan for the costs I had carried to defend the house. Small amounts. Regular as breath. The kind that teaches they pay. On the way home, I bought lemons and chicken. I invited my daughter and Ruth to dinner. We would eat. We would speak once. We would set the last beam. The kitchen smelled like old Sundays. Ruth brought a pie that looked like forgiveness without amnesia. My daughter arrived with tulips. Their stems were trimmed too short. Sometimes that happens when you hurry to look sincere. We ate first. That matters. Food reminds hands to unclench. Then I set 4 pages on the table. The capacity letter. The court order. The care agreement. The repayment plan. I did not lecture. I did not narrate. I read the headings and the dates. I asked if there were questions. My daughter had 2. Both were practical. She signed. Ruth witnessed. I signed last. I used the blue pen I keep for holidays and wills. When it was done, my phone buzzed. The bank had emailed a confirmation. The passphrase was active. The freeze lifted where it should, and nowhere else. A minute later, the recorder pinged the attorney. The cleanup entry posted to the parcel. The cloud was described and dismissed on the same line. The room felt taller. We cleared plates. Ruth dried the good pan with a towel that has served more arguments than any of us. My daughter asked if she could have a spare set of keys for emergencies. I said yes. 1 set. Hooked on a rule, she uses them only when I ask or if a true emergency stands on the porch and says its name. We wrote that line on the care agreement margin. We both initialed it. Later, after the dishes, my daughter hovered in the doorway. Will you ever forgive me? She asked. I told her forgiveness is not a switch. It is a staircase. We can climb it if we keep our feet on the same step. She nodded again. It was the right size of nod. When the house was quiet, I walked to the key hook. My set was still missing. The space looked like a tooth pulled from a smile. I touched the wall. Paint holds memory. It hummed back a little. A locksmith came at noon. He smelled like cold metal and honesty. He rekeyed the doors without commentary. He cut 3 sets, mine, Ruth's, my daughter's. I paid him with the blue pen receipt and watched him drive away in a van that did not try to sell me anything else. Then I stood at the kitchen door and hung my keys on the hook. The small clink echoed like a bell in a town square. It sounded like a room returning to itself. That afternoon the bank letter arrived on cream paper. It confirmed the passphrase and my sole authorization status. I put it in the house folder behind the court order. The folder is thick now. It lives in the top drawer with the takeout menus. Important things deserve friendly neighbors. The brokerage sent a compliance memo they now use for new agents. It mentions third-party instructions and elder property. It is a strange legacy. I will take it anyway. The clinician dropped off a spare copy of my capacity letter for your file. He included a sticky note that said, simply, "You were clear." I kept the note. At dusk, Ruth came over with the dog. My daughter arrived later with tulips that were trimmed better this time. We ate soup. We spoke about unremarkable things, the weather, the squeaky gate, the neighbor's new mailbox that leans like a tired man. Ordinary talk is a country you cross back into after a checkpoint. It means the border guards have gone home. When they left, I walked the yard where the post had stood. The grass was bruised. It would recover. A robin tugged at a worm near the hydrangeas like nothing bad had ever happened under those petals. Birds carry a kind of mercy humans have to practice. I breathed with them for a minute. Then I checked the lock. Then I checked the hook. Rituals keep doors honest. People ask what justice looks like when you do not want to burn your life to warm your hands. It looks like this. A record that outlasts a rumor. A boundary written in pen instead of a shout that fades in the hallway. A daughter who learns the difference between care and custody because the paper refused to lie for her. A mother who keeps her name on the line that counts. If later, much later, I choose to sell this house, it will be because my knees and I agree. It will be because I have time to bless every doorway and label every box the slow way my husband taught me. It will not be because anyone thought fear should wear my keys. Futures do not need thieves to dress them. I left the porch light on. My husband wired it years ago with a switch that still clicks like a polite throat clearing. The glow settled on the steps. I pictured him sitting in the old lawn chair, counting studs in the air with his finger like he did when a project was only bones. Measure twice, he'd say. Drive once. I have measured twice. I have driven once. The frame holds. Before bed, I did one small, private thing. I changed the Wi-Fi name from Admin Central to Keys Belong Here. Then I put the router back exactly where I found it. No one will notice but me. That is enough. If anyone asks me how I answered a daughter who mistook possession for love, I will tell them this: I did not shout. I did not vanish. I made a list. I made a file. I poured tea. I spoke once, in the right room. And then, when the paper had done its work, I hung up my keys where I could see them. And every morning now, when the kettle sings, the hook answers with that small, bright clink. It is the least dramatic sound in the world. It is also the sweetest.